All right. Hello, you wonderful humans. Thank you for being here. It's Wednesday, it's 7 o'clock. It's time for a Wednesday weekly workshop here at 3D Wellness with yours truly, Drew Detzner. I'm the owner and one of the clinicians here at 3D Wellness. Every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we go live so that you can ask Drew anything. And I am especially happy this week for all of my YouTube people. We missed you last week. We had some technical difficulties. I believe we have corrected it, and I'm going to write down the method we used to correct it. If this is your first time ever checking out a Wednesday weekly workshop, I'm really glad you're here. Let me tell you how they go. You get to ask me anything about nutrition, health, all that good stuff. I'll talk to you about it in the ways that I know best. If I don't know something, I'll tell you I don't know something. The idea and the reason that these started is because we see between 40 and 50 clients a week in here. And that means that visits are not 1 or 2 hours long each, where they could just keep asking questions indefinitely. But we want those questions answered. So this is a way for us to answer questions for our clients that is free and does not involve them having to leave the comforts of their home or the karate practice that they're at or the soccer game or whatever. But they can still get that info that they're looking for. So whether you're on YouTube or if you're on Instagram, you can chat in your questions. We have the incomparable Two Boots Lori LeClaire here.
Here I am.
She is reading those chats. She'll ask those questions to me on your behalf. I'll get some answers for you. If you don't want to chat in, you can also just give us a call. You can call right now. We'll answer the phone. The phones are live. The other thing that quite a few people do is they will reach out ahead of time with our email address and ask that question in advance. So let's jump in. What I want to talk about first is actually a question that we got emailed. We're doing these workshops now for clients, the second Thursday of each month, the third Saturday of each month, which means that this Saturday, the 18th, we have a workshop at 10 a.m. right here. Now it's free for clients. And if you are a client and you want the Zoom link because you can't attend in person, then shoot us an email. We'll get you on the list for that Zoom link. I send out the Zoom link about 5 minutes before the workshop starts. And this Saturday, with Heart Health Month coming up in February, we're talking about omega-3s. Does anybody else see how clever that is? I'm pretty proud of myself for this one. It's an omega sign.
Omega.
3D, omega 3D. Anybody? Nobody? Whatever. I like it. But it's this Saturday. It's at 10 a.m. We're going to go over omega-3s and how they relate to heart health. We're also going to go over a form of analysis that is inexpensive, that allows us to determine the need of your body as an individual for omega-3s. How much? What kind? All of that stuff. So I'd love for you to be here. You can be in person or shoot us an email. We'll send you the Zoom link. The Zoom link is there so that you can ask questions in real time. And so we can really build up this community. My favorite part of those Thursday and Saturday workshops is we get a bunch of like-minded people together and we talk about something that's really great to talk about. I'm going to erase this incredible artwork.
Did you take a picture?
I didn't, but oh, you got it? Thank you.
Sure, I can do it.
I was going to say the live stream will capture it too. But...
All right. We got it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And what questions are rolling in?
Well, we have one here from Gary S. I can share with you.
Let's go for it.
All right. Gary wants to know, following 2 years after CABG surgery, what is that?
I don't know. What is CABG surgery?
So suppose we should look that up real quick.
So this is one of the important things I do. When I don't know, I say something.
Let's see. CABG.
Arterial buildup.
It stands for coronary artery bypass graft.
Oh, okay. So something with his heart, some of the tubing related to it. They had to take another piece of tubing and work it into there. Okay.
Okay. Now that we have that established, is it still beneficial to take low-dose aspirin? It used to be doctors would recommend low-dose aspirin for those over 60, Regardless of cardiovascular history, that advice has since changed to only those over 60 with cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder if another change is coming as they study this. Any thoughts on that?
That's a really good question. So when it comes to any kind of drug, I don't like to talk about it a lot. I do know the recommendations for low-dose aspirin have been shifting. Um, so yeah, that are changing, reducing. So I'm very curious what's coming down the pipe. So I like where it was Gary.
Gary, yeah.
I like where Gary's head is at. When we're talking about heart disease, when we're talking about anything coronary, the dialogue comes back to a few ideas that I want to go over.
Sure.
I also want to go over what low-dose aspirin usage was intended to do and how we can mimic that with some natural stuff.
Cool.
Which will not have side effects. So, low-dose aspirin will thin your blood. Now, not as much as something like warfarin, like a prescription that was designed just to thin your blood, especially since the low-dose aspirin, I think, is like 81 milligrams per dose. It's a pretty low dose of aspirin. But the idea is to thin the blood so that if in your blood vessels, your veins and arteries, here's a side profile of one of those. I'm absolutely going to use brown. If you start to have things accumulating inside the walls of your veins and arteries, and it starts to accumulate further and further, blocking the flow like somebody squeezing a garden hose, what we would want to do is make sure the blood that's flowing through that opening is as thin as possible, so it's easier for it to flow through a narrow space. Okay? So that's the idea. Problem some people run into is sometimes aspirin, so it may stress out your kidneys and your stomach. And some people are concerned, like, hey, maybe it's not stressing them out right away with an outward symptom that I can feel, but it's still stressing out my body. It's still messing with something. So they don't want to take that long term. So what would we do? I would look at it in that situation two different ways, okay? First thing I'd want to do is support the blood vessels. I think we've spoken about this before, but it is a good thing to go over, especially with Heart Health Month next month. Does vessels have two L's?
I think one.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Support the blood vessels and then, optimize the blood, which means keeping it very liquid, easy to pass through stuff. Okay. Those are going to be the two things that we do. To support the blood vessels, we want whole food vitamin C. That does not mean you go to Whole Foods to get it. That means that we want a vitamin C supplement that is made out of food. And then we also want to eat foods that are rich in vitamin C. So your fresh produce is going to be your best food source of vitamin C. So when you've heard people say 5 to 6 servings a day of fresh produce, that's a great idea for a lot of reasons. And one of them is the vitamin C. So this is going to be produce. Okay. Beyond produce, there's a supplement that's really good for helping the walls of the blood vessels. It's called Cyruta Plus. This is very rich in something called buckwheat. And the buckwheat in this particular product is grown in that perfect soil at the standard process farm. It is nutritionally optimal for giving you a whole food source of vitamin C that helps those blood vessels when they're flexing, because they don't just stay the same diameter all the time. They have some give and take, and we want to keep them nice and flexible so it's easy to do that. If they don't have the nutrients that allow that give and take for the blood vessels to flex, the body will intentionally put things like cholesterol on there, like plumber's putty, to seal any gaps or any leaks, because it knows it has to flex, but it doesn't want to spring a leak. So if we nutritionally support the integrity of those blood vessel walls, there's less of a reason for things to accumulate on those walls. Second part, we want to optimize the blood for this particular situation. And I would do that with two things. I would do it with high dose omega-3, which conveniently is what we're talking about on this Saturday. And I would do it with a very potent turmeric called Turmeric Forte.
By MediHerb.
Yeah, by MediHerb, which is the standard process affiliate. High dose omega-3 and Turmeric Forte, either one of those on their own is not going to have much of a blood thinning effect. Those two together will have a more pronounced blood thinning effect. If we really wanted to get aggressive, the omega-3 I would use would be the Ol Prima EPA and DHA blend from Standard Process. It's safe to take Ol Prima and Turmeric Forte while doing low-dose aspirin. It is not safe to do Ol Prima and Turmeric Forte when you're on a blood-thinning drug like warfarin. It's a very important difference. If you have any questions at all, talk to your prescriber first, because they are the authority on all things drug. So, two ways we would help address this: support the blood vessels with some Cyruta Plus, because that's a whole food vitamin C, and get your 5 to 6 servings of produce every day. And then optimize the blood. High dose of a good omega-3 like the Ol Prima products from Standard Process, and some Turmeric Forte. It's also going to work wonders for your brain and for your joints. And Gary, I don't know you, but what do you think? If we lined up 10 people from your family, how many of them would say that your brain could use some support? So a little bit of sass. Trying to have some fun out here. That's a good question.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, what else we got, Two Boots?
Nothing rolling in on the chats here. I can pull one out of my you-know-what. Hat.
The hat. Yeah, it's definitely what you're going to say. 3-letter word, hat.
Want me to lay it on you?
Yeah, as long as it comes out of your hat.
Well, first, let me say hello to someone here.
Oh, cool.
Hello, Derek. The phone's ringing.
The phones are live. To be continued.
That.
We're gonna see if it's what kind of question we got coming in on the phone.
Thanks for calling 3D Wellness. This is Lori.
It could always just be somebody trying to schedule an appointment. There's that too. Place the supplement order.
Hold on 1 second. The questions on YouTube.
Oh, let's take a look-see. We may have a problem with the YouTube questions. Click the chat icon. Click live chat.
There we go.
Cool. What is your experience with, is this you on the phone, Al-Zara?
Is this Al-Zara? Okay, we're going to read those questions right now. Okay?
Thank you for calling. Brilliant. All right, the questions on YouTube. What is your experience with Dermatrophin PMG? Any success stories on what it is specifically helpful for? And what's your favorite draining supplement for inflamed lymph node under the chin? Let's rock and roll. Great question. Thank you for calling to tell us there was an issue with that. So we will talk dermatrophin first. Because there are some secret uses for dermatrophin that people often don't remember or know about. And I'm going to put a little note over here that says lymph drain chin. As I mentioned, a lymph node under the chin. Need some help draining. All right, Dermatrophin PMG. It's a product by Standard Process. I want us to keep in mind a couple of things first. There are a lot of different PMG supplements. So whenever you see PMG, I want you to think organ or gland specific support. Okay. The PMG supplements are designed to be like a 1 part anti-inflammatory, 1 part multi-nutrient for a specific part of the body. So there's cardiotrophin for the heart, there's oculotrophin for the eyes, there's dermatrophin for the skin and for some other stuff that we'll get into. But the idea here is whenever you see PMG, the word before it is telling you specifically what organ we are going to support with that product. So dermatrophin PMG, of course, we're going to think skin. So this is something historically I've used when we have slow wound healing. So you get a cut or a scrape, slow hound healing. Woo! Hello. Slow wound. If you have a hound that heals slowly, I don't have supplements for specific to that. Skin, slow wound healing. Rashes. High sun exposure. If you have a job where you're going to be outside all the time. If you have a vacation that you're going to be outside all the time during it. Post-surgery recovery. Right, they make an incision on your body, you got to make sure that it heals up. So wound healing, rashes, high sun exposure, post-surgery recovery. Cool, that's the stuff that I've used it for. So in the past, when clients have come in and they have a history of candida, which is a type of yeast fungus infection on the skin, dermatrophin PMG is very likely a part of that because it will support the skin while we address the actual issue, which is the candida. I have a client who's a lifeguard. So when she's out in the sun all summer, she is on dermatrophin PMG for those outdoor months to make sure that we are protecting her body from getting the wrong kind of sun exposure. It's really easy to take. Most people need like 3 a day. I want to go into some of the secret uses for this now. It's your gut. So your gut, specifically your intestines. Okay? And it's the walls, not the lining. So similar kind of idea, and I'll draw that cross-sectional again. So what dermatrophin PMG is really good at supporting are the walls, okay? Our intestines, the skin of our intestines where food and waste pass through us, I want you to think about that skin in a really specific way. It is the same thickness and the same flexibility and the same durability as your eyelids. All right, so right now, take your pinky, everybody. 2 boots, you too. Mm-hmm. If you have glasses, you might have to take them off. Very gently place your pinky, the tip of your pinky, the top of your eyeball just under your bony ridge there, and just move your eyelid back and forth a little bit. It's a little squishy. It's pretty easy to move. It's not particularly thick. It's not particularly tough. It shouldn't be. That's the walls of your intestines. So next time you decide to gorge yourself on junk food and have 7 shots of Jägermeister with it, consider doing the same thing to your eyelids. Okay, that's the way I want you to think about it. That has served me greatly in calming down my junk food habits because I'm like, that's sensitive skin. That's not particularly tough. Mm-hmm. What is inside of dermatrophin PMG is really good for those walls. It's help keep them nourished. It's help promote a reduction in inflammation, which makes it easier for them to do something wonderful, which is when they start to accumulate that healthy mucosal lining. And it's inside that healthy mucosal lining that we populate with those good bacteria. It's tough to see because they're tiny, but the probiotics. If we're going to have really good lining to our intestines, that actually starts with having really good walls to our intestines. And one of the ways we can do that is dermatrophin PMG. because there is no intestotrophin PMG, because dermatrophin PMG is the PMG we would use to address the intestines the same way we would use it to address the skin. Did that answer your question? And then I'll get to lymph, I promise. I've not forgotten about lymph. I think there's a 90-second delay between when I say something and when it actually gets cast. The answer is yes?
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's talk lymph under the chin.
Move that a little to the left.
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks.
You always like it when we say we're going to do something and then we can do it. Like when we say, if you call, we'll answer the phone, and then somebody calls, we answer the phone. I like that.
Well, you know what happened is we had that 2-week break, and then the YouTube didn't work last week.
Yeah, so 3 weeks.
I forgot I had
a
little
rusty
there.
Little rusty. No big deal. All right, lymph tissue. Let's talk about lymph tissue. So think of it like the roadway or the highway or the path for your immune system. Your blood has the blood vessels, the vascular system to travel through. Your immune system uses blood a little bit to travel around the body, but it also likes to use lymph tissue. Another thing that this is also is it is a pre-liver, so before your liver, filter for the body. It will try to take care of some of the junk that we interact with on a daily basis, whether that is immune related or if it is like man-made related, like chemicals and that kind of thing. It's going to try to filter things out for you before the liver. It has no pump. Why is that important to know? Because it's easier for lymph tissue to get congested than blood vessels, because blood vessels have your heart constantly moving blood through. Lymph doesn't have that same thing. If you want to help lymph move, because it has fluid inside of it, just like our blood vessels have blood, which is a fluid inside of them. Yeah, they got to move your body regularly. Okay, it's one of the reasons exercise and walking, and not just sitting or laying all day, is really important. The second thing you can do is you can do things to keep that liquid, that fluid, thin, so it's easier to move through the lymph. Okay, and we can do that with a couple of things. Because if something in the lymph system, we were talking in the question about under the chin, but maybe it's the armpit, maybe it's the groin, maybe it's a thigh or your belly. If there's congestion, it'll inflame, it'll get bigger. And often if we just thin that fluid, it can move through and then it'll calm down that inflamed spot. So to thin the fluid, 3 steps. Gotta hydrate. So that means actually get enough water. But I also really like the electrolyte mix from Possible. It's a Standard Process affiliate. We carry it, we use it with a bunch of people year round, not just in the spring and summer when people are sweatier. But you have to have adequate hydration to actually get enough fluid into the lymph system for it to be able to move that fluid around. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to use some Antranex. Antranex is a wonderful supplement. It does a lot for us, including thinning the lymph fluid. And then if you can take some kind of echinacea. I like the echinacea premium. It's really potent. It's, how to put it? Its potency is greater than its price tag. It should cost more than it does for how potent it is. Echinacea premium, most people 2 a day is this incredible dose. I've had people go higher than that, but if you're taking 2 echinacea premium a day, you're doing all sorts of incredible things for your body that go way beyond what you would expect 2 tablets of something to do for you. For lymph, usually Antranex is going to be around 6 a day. And then the electrolytes, just 1 packet a day would do you just fine. Yeah, the electrolytes come in a nice little packet. Tear it open, drop it in your water, stir it, get hydrated. That's what I would do for that. There's other things you can do like lymph massage, which is really light touch, always going towards your heart, towards the center of you. So if it was your leg, you would be doing it upwards. When it's under your chin, you'll be doing it downwards because it's always going towards your heart. And then warmth. That can be a sauna. But when it's the neck or under the chin, sometimes it's as simple as wearing a scarf for a couple of days whenever you can to keep that area a little bit warmer, which just helps the lymph relax a little bit more, and then the fluid can move through it just a little bit more easily. I hope that helps. And thanks again for calling.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've got another question here by the same chat person. What does it mean when it itches right where the inflamed lymph node is?
Usually that there's something in there irritating it, and your body wants it to start moving. And it's hopeful that if you start itching it enough, you'll knock whatever is in there out of the way. So that gets a little bit tricky because I'm expecting that it's not a skin itch. It's like an internal itch. Tell me if that sounds right to you. It's like beneath the skin. And the best thing you can do for that is get some heat on that right away. So I didn't mention a warm water bottle. That kind of thing could be done right there. If you have a heating pad, you could put it right there, that kind of thing. That can help relieve the itch because it can help things start to relax and get flowing.
Even like a warm washcloth, right?
Yeah, warm washcloth right against there would be good.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Cool. All right. Moving on to Derek has a couple questions here. Thoughts on fluoride for teeth? Also, any different opinion on putting it on baby's teeth?
Okay.
And when he says baby, I'm guessing maybe a 9-month-old.
Hilarious, Two Boots. Hilarious. All right, the first thing we got to do is I have trouble spelling the word fluoride.
Okay.
The U comes first?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. Yay.
Okay.
I struggle with that one too. You're not alone.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it should, but that doesn't really matter how it feels. Whether or not it's how it feels, that's what it is. So there's this really wonderful movie that I reference all the time. And I'm calling it wonderful because it talks about something that should be spoken about more. And it's not because the entire movie, pretty much every shot where Julia Roberts is in it, there's a whole lot of cleavage. That's not why I'm calling it a fantastic movie. Okay? I know there are others who would say that movie was good without catching a single word of it just because of the visuals. Okay? But in this movie, it's called Erin Brockovich. And the character of Erin Brockovich discovers that there's a small town that is downstream from a chemical manufacturing facility where there's an extraordinary high level of a certain type of cancer. She also finds that that type of cancer is more likely to happen when a certain type of toxin is in the water. But up and down, left and right, people have tested the water in this town, and it's not that toxin that's in the water. It's supposedly a version of the same thing that's good for you that's in the water. So the chemical company could not possibly be poisoning the water at all. They're only giving you good stuff. I'm going to spoil it for you because the movie came out 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. What she finds is that they're lying about what version of that thing it is. Mm-hmm. It's not the okay one, it's the toxic one. And there's a big cover-up about it. And the reason all the people in that small town kept getting this very specific type of cancer is because they were being actively poisoned. What they were showering in, what they were filling up their swimming pools with, what they were brushing their teeth with, what they were cooking with and drinking, all of that had toxic things in it. And they were told it was safe, and it wasn't. For that reason, I think that movie, Erin Brockovich, should be shown to more people because it's a very real concern that we should all have. Fluoride falls under the same category. There is one source of it from the earth That's great. Now it's in rocks and it's in soil, and I don't recommend eating rocks or soil, but there's good news. You can grow things in that soil with those rocks, and the roots from those plants will start to draw those minerals in, including fluoride, including the good version of fluoride. Aaron Brockovich would not be upset about this version of fluoride. It's a good version of fluoride. Okay, you can get it from grass. Humans don't digest grass particularly well. Cows digest grass particularly well. So eat the cow. Okay? Use the bones from the cow to make bone broth. That is an outstanding source. That is an outstanding source of the good kind of fluoride that's going to help your bones and your teeth. A little bit of work in the brain also. That's a really good source. That good fluoride is in the earth. When grass grows, it'll pull some of that out of the soil. Cows will eat that. Cows are designed to digest grass, and they'll turn it into something in their body that we can then consume the cow and get the benefit of the fluoride. Okay? That's a really good way to go about it. There's another supplement you can look for. It's called calcium hydroxy appetite, and I can't remember if there's 1P or 2, so forgive me, but it's close enough. I think there's just 1 because that looks too long. It's really popular nowadays to put that form of calcium into different toothpastes because the word is out that there's good fluoride and bad fluoride, and this has the good fluoride inside of it. That's what I would put on anybody's teeth regardless of age. Toothpastes, tooth powders, are really easy to find nowadays that have that particular set of minerals. It's calcium with a whole bunch of other stuff, including good fluoride. That's what I would recommend to put on anybody's teeth. The other kind of fluoride is kind of a big bummer. It is a chemical byproduct from making different things. And these companies who were making these products and had leftover waste decided to try to market it to different companies as a benefit to add to their toothpaste. Because they heard that fluoride was really good, and they tried to pull an Aaron Brockovich and say, fluoride is fluoride, no big deal, it's totally safe. And that is not true, as there are toxic forms of fluoride. Unfortunately, that is the majority of what's inside of different toothpastes. And added to certain drinking waters. That's not great fluoride. It is fluoride, and you can research fluoride and find out that fluoride's good for you, but that's the earth source of fluoride. I don't ever like to get political. I don't like politics. For the most part, I don't like politicians. There's a guy who's getting a lot of attention nowadays. His name is RFK Jr. And what I wish more than anything with RFK Jr. is that when he speaks about different things, if he would do what I just did instead of just jumping into it. On the topic of things like fluoride, often he starts the conversation with saying things like, it's brain poison, they're trying to hurt you, it's a conspiracy theory, they gave it to people in concentration camps in World War II to dumb them down and make them easier to rule over. That's all pretty heavy, right? Like that's some heavy talk right there. Instead, what I would love for him to do, since he has this national platform on whatever topic he's talking about, food ingredients, fluoride, whatever, if he would talk about the research on it first and ways to do it right, I would totally love that. So, whatever you think of RFK Jr., the next time you hear him talk, what I want you to do is take a step back if it all seems a little heavy, a little overwhelming, and go like, hey, is there some research behind what he's saying that I could find and better understand what he's saying? Derek, did that answer your question?
What about baby's teeth then? The baby's teeth?
Yeah. use the calcium hydroxyapatite
Find
containing.
a,
There's lots of them.
okay.
You can get them at Target for crying out loud.
Okay. Cool.
If you Google it, you'll find 15 different people that'll make it online. You can find baby-specific formulas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Powders and pastes.
Wonderful. Well, while we wait for his response, here's a second question from him.
Yeah.
What would you say are the best foods, minerals, vitamins to be focusing on for a 9-month-old baby?
Ooh, very good question. Gonna take me back to the early development class that I took. It was 2013. You want me to remember things from 12 years ago? Jeez. I don't know what I had for breakfast today. I'm joking. What I had for breakfast. All right. 9-month-old. Let's go through the list. Minerals. Calcium. Magnesium. If it's a boy, zinc. If it's a young woman, not as important to get the zinc at this stage. Later on, that'll come up more so. But for the young fellows, 9 months old, minerals would be calcium, magnesium, and zinc. What I personally did with my son was I used Calcifood powder by Standard Process. And I might do as little as like 1/8 of a teaspoon mixed in with one of the foods that we were introducing to him, whether that was like mashed up avocado with breast milk, if that was egg yolk, if that was some fruit puree, any of those things. I would take this really small amount of Calcifood powder and mix it into that and get that into his system. It's a wonderful food to feed a 9-month-old. Okay. For the sake of getting the zinc, I would recommend that you get a dark colored meat. So that could be as simple as beef, but I also want to throw out lamb. And then when it comes to fowl, if you do the wings or the thighs from the birds, that's going to be dark meat also. So that would also be really good to do. So one part of it's a supplement. One part of it's these certain foods that I would want to make sure we're incorporating. And then the other thing with 9 months old, because we're getting to the age where we're introducing more and more, or starting to introduce foods, is we want to introduce a nice diversity. Kids will always gravitate towards their favorite. They'll gravitate towards their favorite. Did I say towards twice before? Gravitate towards their favorite. I got to grab that look as the screenshot. But you want to make sure that you keep giving them the opportunity to try new stuff that'll pay you back tremendously later on. If a taste has a familiarity to it, that'll help you later on. And I mentioned mixing breast milk in with avocado, but you can mix the breast milk in with any food, because then again, it's more familiar to the kiddo. The kiddo knows the breast milk, so the food doesn't seem as foreign. Man, vitamin-wise, all of them. My favorite way to do that is going to be chewable Catalin. That was developed for use with kiddos. At 9 months old, you just do one a day. I would totally crush it up. They put some raspberry powder in there, so it tastes pretty good, actually. I'd crush up one a day, mix it in with one of those foods the kid likes. The other thing you can do, my kids went for this, you can see if yours does. I would crush the tablet of chewable Catalin. I would lick my fingertip and dab that into the powder, and it would stick to my finger. And then I'd pop that right in my kid's mouth, and they would just, they would take it right off of there, and I could get a whole Catalin into them just doing that. It's really easy. This doesn't have high doses of any one vitamin. It has over 250 known nutrients in it, including vitamins. And then the second part to that, produce. Make sure you get the kid a nice variety of produce. If your kid loves mango and isn't really into beets, try mixing a 90% mango, 10% beet concoction. Because again, we're slipping in that familiarity thing so that the kid tastes beets sometime and goes, oh man, this reminds me of mango, which I totally love. Oh, I'll have some beets. Okay? You're tricking them for the sake of their well-being. This is not evil. So that's what I would do. For minerals, calcifood powder with dark-colored meat. For vitamins, chewable catalin and produce. And remember to use the breast milk to your advantage, and to do mixes very light on the new food, very heavy on the favorite, just to make it familiar. I love working with mamas and dedas and babes, and working with couples that are working on their fertility and their conception. I'll tell you the joke. It goes back to when I worked with a young woman and her husband. Her name is Renee. Her and her husband had been trying to conceive for 8 months when I met them. And they knew all about timing ovulation, how frequently to be intimate. They'd gone to their doctor, their blood work came back really good. For 8 months, they tried to conceive, no luck whatsoever. When they came to me, I did my assessment. I said, hey, we really got to take a 3-month break from trying to conceive while we work on building up your body and getting it in a better place. And I worked with Renee, and for 3 months, we nourished her body. We built it up. And I remember she came in for what was going to be the last appointment before I said, go ahead and be intimate again for the sake of conception. And she came in and she said, I have a confession to make. My husband and I, we're intimate without protection. I'm like, okay, well, that's tough. You lasted for a while using protection. And now she's like, I hope it wasn't too soon. I'm worried. Okay. Another month goes by. She comes back in and she goes, hey, Drew, I'm pregnant. I'm like, awesome. That's totally great news. Now, it's really early in the pregnancy. It's only like 5 weeks into the pregnancy. So we're not popping champagne bottles and that stuff yet. Keep going along. We keep going along. Everything's going well. 8 weeks pregnant, 12 weeks pregnant, 20 weeks pregnant, all that good stuff. She comes in after about 6 months and she goes, hey, something weird happened at my doctor visit the other day. And I'm like, please don't give me bad news. I would feel awful. You waited so long to conceive. You finally conceived. And she goes, it's weird. It's not bad. They hear 2 heartbeats in there. So the first time Renee got pregnant, after 8 months of no luck, she got pregnant with twins. So the joke around here for a while was, you can go to Drew for help with fertility and conception, but be careful because you'll have twins if you do. I was at that point in time, first fertility case I ever worked on, and they got twins. It hasn't recurred, so don't worry. Yeah. If you're hoping for twins, please don't say, but Drew said he would. Yeah. Other questions coming in.
A quick follow-up question from Derek. What about iron? I always hear about that for babies, he says.
Yeah, good question. The dark-colored meats will address that also. Cooked dark green plants and dark-colored meats are your best bet for iron. I don't like giving iron supplements generally, but especially not to a 9-month-old.
Okay.
Good question.
Let me just check YouTube real quick here. Yeah. Oh, ZZ. Okay. Could you kindly offer any recommendations for managing a herniated disc in the neck, particularly following a car accident? Currently receiving I hope people understand this is why
the chat keeps popping
in and out here. Transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. Yeah. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay.
Yeah. That means that they're trying to stimulate the nerves through the skin.
Okay.
They're putting something on the skin and then they're putting some charge, some electricity into it.
Okay.
To
just
stimulate
to get
it.
some. Okay.
We're going to talk about a herniated disc. You mentioned in the neck.
Yes.
But I'm going to talk about herniated discs in general. What color haven't I used yet? Did I go through the rainbow already?
Use purple.
Purple. Let's do purple. All right, herniated disc. So we got to make sure people understand this in the first place. Inside of your spine, from the top of it to the bottom of it, you have a bony piece that is not at all what it looks like. We'll have Dr. Moira on here. She'll draw a perfect example of what the different bony pieces, because they're different shapes too. I'm not a chiropractor.
You miss Dr. Moira.
Oh. All right. You got bony pieces, and then you got soft pieces in between. And why do you want that? Because bone on bone isn't a good thing. Okay? If the two bony pieces were rubbing on each other, they'd be chipping each other and breaking each other down. It would be like a sword fight, but you're fighting with a sword made out of bone against another person with a sword made out of bone. So we got this nice squishy thing in between. Okay? And it's like a disc because it's round, not because I love disc golf. Okay? When a herniated disc happens, it's because we're getting some bulging out. Okay? You may have heard of a slipped disc. That's when that red part just pops out. Okay? So this disc, when we have a herniated disc, it means that there's a part of it that's bulging out. We don't want that. We want that to be a nice tight package that stays in its original shape. That's what we're after here. Okay? And there are certain nutrients that will help us do that. First thing you want to do is you want to get collagen and gelatin. Collagen is really amazing for a lot of things in the body, like your gut and your hair, your skin, your nails. Does a little bit of work in the spine with those discs. Gelatin does way more work with those discs. So you want to make sure that you are getting 2 tablespoons a day of gelatin. And I would also put 2 tablespoons of collagen with that. An equivalent would be, if you make good bone broth, 8 ounces of bone broth. Okay. That's a nutritional need for healthy discs in the spine. I wish that bone broth would be enough on its own. That would take years on its own to help correct that. So we want to speed some things up. First thing I'm going to use is called Ligaplex 1. It's really rich in a mineral called manganese. That's not magnesium, that's a different one. It's really rich in manganese. It's also got some anti-inflammatory benefit to it. So that herniated disc, that hernia, is definitely inflamed. So Ligaplex 1 is going to help the body deal with inflammation. It's also going to give a lot of this mineral that is absolutely critical for the healthy structure, the healthy shape of that disc. Most people are going to need to take 6 a day of Ligaplex 1. There's another mineral that's really important for discs. I'm going to put 2 boots on the spot.
Oh, geez.
The mineral that's also very important for discs is sulfur. What's our favorite source of sulfur?
Spanish black radish,
You know
sir.
Spanish black radish, absolutely. 2 points to 2 boots. Sulfur is really important for a couple of things inside of those discs structurally. I would not be surprised at all if somebody came to me and had a sulfur and manganese deficiency and they said, I've got multiple herniated discs. I would say, yeah, you were set up nutritionally, you were set up chemically in your body to have an issue with your discs. Okay. Typically with Spanish black radish, people need just 2 or 3 a day. So what I'm thinking is, if you can get in the collagen or the gelatin and or some bone broth with some Ligaplex 1 and some Spanish black radish, you are providing your body the nutrients that are needed to support those tissues that are dealing with the hernia. Okay? It's not the bony parts we're talking about. It's the soft part in between that disc that we're talking about. Did that answer your question? I have the thermostat set to 60 in here.
Is that why it feels like 80?
And heat is pouring out of the vents. And Lori and I are like,
crazy here.
We have a fan on. It's January in southern Wisconsin. Why do we have a fan on?
Yes, thank you. God bless you.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm happy to help. Everything I know is because somebody else told me. I didn't figure all this stuff out. Somebody else figured this out, and I just read their books or had a lot of conversations with them. So I'm happy to share it because it was shared with me. Did other questions roll in?
No, sir.
Okay.
Let's see.
Well, this is a good stopping point. We covered some really good stuff today.
Definitely, yeah. I didn't even get to throw one into the ring tonight.
There's always next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially now that I know how to YouTube again. All right, if you're a client and you want to attend the Saturday workshop, it's 10 a.m. this Saturday. Reach out to us and let us know you want to attend. If you want to be in person, we got chairs. They fit butts perfectly. If you want to do it online, we will send you the Zoom link. Otherwise, as always, the participation, the questions, sincerely, we cherish them. Having this community is a really important part of what we're doing here. So thank you for helping facilitate that. You'll see us next Wednesday for another Wednesday weekly workshop where you get to ask Drew anything. Bye for now.